The ultimate action figures are here. Real articulation, real detail.
Diego Sanchez, Andrei Arlovsky, Anderson Silva, Forrest Griffin.
UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Series 7 in stores now. More info www.facebook.com/UFC Toys.
As real as it gets. Jakks Pacific and UFC.
2011 Zephyr LLC, all rights reserved. TM and copyright 2011 Jakks Pacific Inc., Malibu, California 90265 USA. Contents may vary in style, color, shape, and decoration from images shown in the package or in advertising.
Welcome, dear listener, to our podcast. Jeff and Rick present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack,
where we journey through each issue of comics that include a member of the most underrated Marvel series from the 80s while drinking beer.
Analyzing awesome and amazing adjacent adolescent adventures and absorbing alcohol.
I am Jeff.
I am Rick.
I'm Douglas.
Top coat, top hat, and I don't worry 'cause my wallet's fat. Black shades, white gloves, looking sharp, looking for love. They come running just as fast as they can, 'cause every girl random about a banter man. Random banter time, buddies. Talk to me, tell me tall tales and tantalizing tidbits of trivia today.
Every time I have a guest, I always forget to explain this part.
You know what? I'm rolling with it.
and I've even finally figured out why he's saying ZZ Top, sharp-dressed man.
It's the beard.
Yeah. Well, I was also going to say that it's also because Peter Parker in this is sharp-dressed when he shows up at the Fantastic Four Baxter building in an offensive suit for Sue and everybody else.
It's all about the clothes in this issue. It's, I don't know what the issue is about, but I know it was about clothes. A lot of fashion. This is like Devil Wears Prada, Spider-Man edition.
Nice.
Sharp-dressed man.
We should start off and just kind of move past Jeff and his quote-unquote singing and get to the real reason. Well, the second real reason why we're here. We're here for the comic book, of course. But we have a guest. We have Douglas Wolk with us, and I am so excited because he is a Portland, Oregon, well, not native, but he lives in Portland, Oregon with us, and he is also a two-time Eisner winner for books about comic books, and his most recent one is All of the Marvels, which I have read. I've got it right here next to me, and I've got a nice little note from him in it as well. Fantastic book where he has read all 27,000 Marvel superhero comics and wrote about them. Douglas, welcome. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
I've been talking to you a lot. We've run into each other a few times at Books with Pictures. I've wanted to have you come on the show because it's nothing. I mean, we like to say we're experts about Power Pack, but it's nice to have an expert about comic books here to actually set us straight and to make sure that we're doing things right.
Yeah, our expertise comes from that we've read Power Pack.
Yes.
That's all the expertise anybody needs.
Pretty much. It really is what it boils down to. It's kind of like, hey, you want to be an expert on it? Read it. What do you think? Yep. There you go. You want to listen to a couple of schmoes talk about it as well? That's awesome for us. So,
do you want to talk really quickly about your book? Like I said, I've read it. I enjoy it. I've picked up a few different things from it, and I've actually dropped some of the knowledge that you've talked about in this show. But you want to just kind of give a book cover speech on it, if you will.
Sure. I mean, All of the Marvels is the book about, it actually is a parent and kid story at its heart, very much like this show. It is about what happened when my son kind of gave me the idea of, like, what would actually happen if I read all of the Marvel superhero comics since 1961? Like, what does that 500,000 page story look like as a story? What does the, 40,000 foot view of it look like? And I thought it was going to take, year and a half to do all the reading, maybe 8 months to write the book, and 7 years later, here we are. It took a while, plunged myself deep into it, found all sorts of interesting things that you'll find in the book. And, Power Pack is a significant part of that, especially Franklin Richards. I have a whole thing with Franklin Richards, but yeah.
Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It's a different perspective. It's something I've mentioned a lot since I've read it. Why do you like Marvel Comics? Especially, why do you like Marvel Comics more than DC? And, well, I know my reasons. It's just kind of what I've always enjoyed, and I've had some of my own feelings on it, but reading how you conceptualize Marvel Comics as one story, one continuous story. And that's something that DC doesn't necessarily have.
Now, see, I get asked a lot, like, are you really a Marvel person, not a DC person? My first answer to that is I like both kinds of music, country and Western.
Yep.
But if you had to ask me what my favorite giant body of comics work with multiple series set in the same universe was, I would probably say Judge Dredd.
Okay.
Judge Dredd is great.
Yeah.
Love Judge Dredd. I'm glad that it still exists as a medium, whether it's just the movies that pop out from here to there, where it's just like, oh, that's touching on the basis of what Judge Dredd is about. And then you had the Carl Urban one, which was very, I thought, pretty true to the source material. But, it's just like, yeah, Judge Dredd, great stuff. So,
and the comic's been coming out every week since 1977. Mm-hmm. Every week.
A lot of dark dystopia for
2,200 plus, episodes, And it's amazing. It keeps getting better. Amazingly enough. Anyway, that's my plug for the thing that is not Marvel.
And that's another piece of it, too, is why do you like comic books? You've got your own reason to like comic books. And like you said at the beginning, how do you become an expert on it? You read it. Mm-hmm. How do you become a fan? You pick it up and enjoy it. There's no gatekeeping with this at all. It's just, this is the story that something like Marvel Comics has created, spanning over 60 plus years now. And this is what they do. And
you absolutely don't have to read everything to get it. You don't really, don't do what I did. Don't follow my example. I did this so you don't have to.
Learn from my mistakes. That's a very common parenting trope.
And it's kind of fun, too, because putting that idea onto what we are doing here, where we are following certain characters and we are following them throughout the universe and we are reading the books that they show up in, but that we're not necessarily reading all the other books around it. So we're falling into some of that trap too of we're picking up Fantastic Four. We know in theory what's happened before and what's going to happen after this, but we're following the kids and we're following the storyline as we pick it up. So it's a different kind of take on that. We're creating our own story about what the universe is and through the eyes of the characters that we are looking at.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that.
And like I said, I do love having you on the show too, because it's a lot of fun to share this with somebody who has got a good take on these characters in this universe too. So
let's get to the chase, Rick. You're just excited to have somebody that you can talk to about Speedball.
Speedball!
There you go.
Speedball. Speedball is my man. As soon as we finish this Power Pack podcast, we are starting a Speedball podcast.
No, we are not.
We are going to...
Fantastic Frogman.
We are going to follow the career of Speedball
and Furball
and Furball and Furball.
Yeah. Furball's still around.
I want to say
amazingly.
Maybe sure. Why not? Let's just say yes. It's a Marvel character.
Right up until the point that becomes the petulant puss. Anyways, we are going to move on from those disturbing images and get into this comic that you asked to be on. So I'm excited to get your feedback onto this new edition, because like I said, we've been following Fantastic Four, and now we've got something brand spanking new when we're actually diving into Amazing Spider-Man. So yay! Jeff, can you please start us off by giving us a 2 cents replay of last episode?
In a brand new issue number 1, the Fantastic Four have changed their name to the FF and have invited Spider-Man to join at the posthumous request of Johnny Storm. Meanwhile, a rogue group of AIM scientists have decided that the best way to foster innovation would be to break a naked and clearly insane Bentley Whitman out of his high-security prison and have him join them on their hopefully peaceful and non-intrusive scientific adventures. Now that the one more person joins the new FF at the end of the issue, and it just happens to be the one, the only, if you don't count Doombots, Victor Von Doom. 2 sentence replay is over. Why don't you give me a beer and tell us what our Power Pack pick is?
My pleasure, my friend. Now, I have brought you a beer, but Douglas does not partake of that, and so he is going to have his own beverage that he is going to share with us. But, Jeff, can you please reach into that paper bag that I dropped off on your doorstep, a week and a half ago, along with a whole bunch of other paper bags, and tell me what you find in there?
I'm just always happy that when this box of non-flaming bags appears, I know that it's a beer, not something I don't want. So let's see. What's in this bag labeled Amazing Spider-Man 658? It is, it's a beer. Beach Trip by Brewery 26 Pacific Pale Ale. Beach trip. Why would it be beach trip? Oh, let's see, because they're going on a road trip. They might go to some beaches. They are going on a road trip. They're going to the lovely beaches of France, inland. They're going to the lovely beaches of the microverse, super inland. And then they're going to... Where's the third place they go to?
The actual beach.
An actual beach, yes.
Yeah, the beach trip is the final destination that they're going to, but it's a trip. It's a trip, and the final destination is a beach. How they get there, that's not important. Or it is important. One
the future, that's where it was.
Yeah.
And somehow I ended up with rose cordial from Portland syrups. But, it's beachy. Yes.
They eat pastries in France that I'm sure were quite sweet, like syrup. Tied it in.
Yeah.
I did it.
Perfect. Yeah. Well done. Good job.
Oh, and I forgot to say that this is it looks like a road sign. It's a yellow label with dark blue lettering, and story time on it is 12 fluid ounces.
And Pacific Pale Ale, and it's got the Brewery 26, kind of like Highway 26, which goes out to the beach.
Yes,
right
it does.
by Jeff's house.
Go by that many a time.
And this is a 5.5% ABV, 38 IBU, a smooth pale ale made for enjoying with friends. Hey, perfect. Simple malt bills meet a blend of Citra and Matioka hops for an easy drinking and flavorful pale. Bring some on your next trip to the beach. And Jeff, I got you a pale ale instead of an IPA. Are you happy?
Entirely different. Yep, instead of India, it's Pacific. So we've bumped an ocean. So that's good for us. It smells real nice. It smells like a pale ale. It kind of has a little sweet aroma to it. It pours with a nice little bit of frothy head on it that's going down. It is, I would almost say this is a hazy because you cannot see through it. But it has a lovely road sign yellow going to the coloration. Mm-hmm. Smells nice. It smells like what it is, and taste is
good.
Skål.
It's a mild pale ale. It's
pleasant.
Nice.
It is nice. I kind of want to say that there's little apricot notes to it, but mostly it is just, it's a very mild pale ale. Pleasant. Good.
It's actually something that you would like to just be sitting on a beach, drinking with your friends.
This is really good beach beer. That is, in fact, a really good beach beverage.
And about your cherry syrup cordial?
Rose syrup.
Rose syrup. Cherry. I'm sorry, rose syrup.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you just add a teeny little bit to some water or fizzy water, and you get the full effect of it. It is very, very concentrated. It is genuinely rose-y. Like, it tastes like roses smell. It is not especially sweet. It is just rose-ish. I kind of love that.
So just hints the senses just enough to think you're walking through the Portland Rose Garden.
Exactly.
Nice. Let's move on. We'll get to the opening credits. We'll get into this book. Jeff, hit us.
Amazing Spider-Man issue 658, June 2011. The Fantastic Spider-Man. Credits: writer Dan Slott, artist Javier Pulido, letterer Joe Caramanga, artist Mutsa Vicente, editor Stephen Wacker.
Featuring Spider-Man and his amazing friends, The Thing, Mr. Fantastic, and the Invisible Woman. Guest starring The Future Foundation and Carly Cooper.
Hey, Douglas, you are known as an expert in Marvel Comics, correct?
Well, I've written the odd book and taught the odd class, and that kind of thing.
Cool. The first scene in this book shows a very nervous Peter trying to start a relationship with this young woman, Carly Cooper.
Well, not trying to start. I mean, it's underway, but it's at a critical moment. A critical juncture.
So, question. Isn't Peter Parker supposed to be married?
No, actually, Peter Parker was retroactively never married, thanks to a deal with Mephisto. So they kind of not just annulled the marriage, but every reference that you see to Peter and Mary Jane having been married before 2007, 2008 never happened. They were never married. They decided at the altar not to make it happen retroactively. So if you read anything that says they were married, it's wrong. It never happened.
So, if you make a deal with Mephisto, he can erase a relationship from the face of the planet. Any relationship. Say like a partnership based on comic books and beer. I'm just asking for a friend.
I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm going to move on and get back to this intimate moment. It's potentially the first steps in a sleepover-style relationship between Pete and Carly, and it's interrupted by a far-flung variety of emergency signals.
Carly Cooper was Peter Parker's love interest that Dan Slott introduced at this point. One of the very, very few people ever to actually figure out Peter Parker's secret. So Carly gets a phone call from her boss. She's needed on a forensic scene because she's a cop. And Peter sees a signal in the sky that looks like a whole bunch of glowing bats in formation.
Wait, I thought this was the Fantastic Four symbol up in the sky. Also, I'm no expert, but isn't Batman a DC property? And outside of a single dalliance, we are deep in the paint with Marvel.
You're halfway. So Batman, yes, is DC, but this is not the Fantastic Four symbol. Remember, Sue Richards has asked for rebranding. So this is the Baxter Aerial Torch, aka BAT signal. So it's a new, it's like a triple hexagon sign in the sky that looks like the Future Foundation's new logo.
Huh. I want to say you made that up, but your credentials force me to agree with whatever it is you say.
I get away with more stuff that way.
The pair of lovebirds each excuse themselves from their romantic twist, with Peter laying down a lame lie, lamenting late-night labor at the lab.
So back in Web of Spider-Man Annual number 2, there is a backup story called You're Lying, Peter Parker. That is what Peter does. He just can't stop lying, and it keeps getting him into trouble.
This is Spider-Man. I think trouble is already there.
Danger is his reward.
And apparently, lying is his middle name. Now, because Peter is dating a forensic detective, he has made the choice to store his red underoos at the office of Horizon Labs, which is a whole new kind of awkward, because as he runs through the building, he passes a group of coworkers who are angry that Peter's new invention seems to combine elements of their two works that are in progress.
So, first off, why is this place like Grand Central Station when it's pretty late o'clock?
So there's actually a deep continuity reason for this, and it is plot convenience.
Good. Now, also to put Peter in the position of sharing credit for his current project with these two and spending the rest of the issue fretting about the new idea to keep him employed.
I'm just glad that Peter finally is in his costume. I'm ready to see that red and blue suit light up my world.
So, meanwhile, over at the Baxter building, Reed and Sue and Ben are waiting for Peter with a group of their new team, their new association, the Future Foundation, aka their new child endangerment experiment. Also Dragon Man. Dragon Man's in there too.
Sue has given orders to Alex and Baby, aka Dragon Man, that they are in charge, which means a reasonable bedtime for the rest of the kids and no more slideshows of Alex ripping apart bugs.
Mrs. Richards, how else are the kids gonna learn?
So it's at this point that Peter Parker swings onto the scene wearing his version of the old black and blue Fantastic Four suit, except that there's a giant 4 symbol in the middle with spider legs radiating out from it.
I mean, sure, style points, but a bit insensitive, my dude. Remember last episode where we talked about how you got a really cool new uniform from these people that had unstable molecules in it and everything? Jeez.
Way to go, Spidey. You show up late in a retired costume that upsets Sue, which upsets Ben. Way to reset the expectation bar to 0, my dude.
So Reed Richards hands over the official Future Foundation costume, which he's actually modified, so it's got a spider on it. And of course, Spider-Man accidentally, quotes, forgot it the last time he was there. He changes. They go take off for a special thing that they are doing.
Not before one of the Moloids and Bentley calls Spidey out for being a big baby.
Right, obviously, yeah. Big baby.
Hey, there's a great reason why Spidey is such a big baby. This suit is white and black, and they're going to think that he's a bad guy.
Oh, okay. Well, we saw that the suit can change colors last episode. Why doesn't he go with the black and white version of the FF costume?
So the black and white version that looks like his old black and white suit, which was an alien symbiote. Well, there was the white on black one that was an alien symbiote that was Venom, but there's also the black on white one, which belonged to Anti-Venom, which was a guy who used to be Venom and then decided he was Anti-Venom, so his costume was the photographic inverse. It's a big thing. Let's not go there.
Okay, wow. I never realized how much ongoing and long-lived trauma Peter has suffered that it can be triggered by something as simple as 2 colors on a costume. Really makes me feel for him and understand where he's coming from.
If it makes you feel any better, Sue does tell him to get over it.
And don't forget that Bentley 23, the descendant of the original Bentley Whitman, calls him a big baby.
Oh, I hadn't forgotten. And no, it doesn't make me feel any better. But now, it is time for the mission. Apparently, there are 3 rifts in the space-time continuum, and they need to go and fix them.
You know, in my day job, I have to determine policy from statutes and rules in order to administer a state program that directly affects the public. I mention this only to highlight how this adventure actually feels like real work.
Now, the centerpiece of this issue is 3 double-page spreads where Javier Pulido and the colorist Montse Vicente and Javier Rodriguez absolutely knock themselves out. And the first one is the Arc de Triomphe, where interdimensional planetary portals have opened and there's sort of dinosaurish dragons with way too many eyes. And also Archon from the dimension of Polemarchus is there with his lightning bolts that he's got in the quiver in his back. It's awesome.
I have said it before, and I've said it again. Comics are so weird.
Archon, my favorite barbarian from an alternate world who throws lightning bolts.
A wonderful deep-cut character, and he actually gave Storm a bunch of those lightning bolts. Not like Storm needs extra lightning bolts because she makes lightning bolts, but, she's got some in case she needs them.
I hate to be one of those guys, but wasn't it Cyclops that he gave those to?
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. I didn't know what I was thinking.
Yes! 1 point for Rick.
After some punches are thrown and science is done, the non-read members have a seat and enjoy the local delicacies, and are harassed by a mime.
You can't hear what I'm saying right now because I'm miming it, but I'm talking about, in my silent way, about the importance of anti-mime laws.
Agreed.
Hey, 2-year state high school champion in mime competition sitting right here.
If you were a mime, then why are you always talking?
All right, settle down, guys. So the French mime, he's in full Marcel Marceau getup. He bugs Ben. He's like, hey, you big gorilla. You don't do that to the thing. Ben dumps the pastries he was eating, and he goes to the Fantastic Car to sulk about how, people always see him as a monster. And the mime keeps mocking him, and so Sue Richards comes up with a brilliant idea and actually puts him in an invisible box. An invisible box that is shrinking. And you see him going, oh, dear God, it's closing in on me, help! Translated from French yelling, says the footnote. I love that. Johnny would have been proud, Spider-Man says.
As the team heads off to their next battle, Spidey sends his girlfriend a voicemail, letting her know that he has been sent out of town in the middle of the night for a business trip, so he's not going to be home to see her tomorrow. She gets this while she is working a murder scene. How lovely!
Back in the microverse, the team is helping to stabilize Superego, the living atom, to keep her from, exploding.
This is another knockout of a Javier Pulido 2-page spread, and it is Superego, the living atom, who is on the model of Ego, the living planet from Fantastic Four history, the Jack Kirby character. And so, it's Reed doing science, being the good guy.
Science, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
So after they resolve the issue, Spider-Man and Reed start geeking out, and they start talking about meta-science, which is, what Galactus looks like to different entities. Because, as Reed says, do you think a cosmic devourer of worlds would appear as a Caucasian man in the purple helmet and boots? That's his metaform. I would like to point out that there's an amazing bit in the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl early on, where Squirrel Girl and her squirrel friend Tippy Toe are with Galactus, who's passed out from eating too many acorns on the moon. Squirrel Girl says, so, is it true that, Galactus appears to you as, whatever you are? And Tippy Toe says, I don't know, toss me up real high and we'll see. So she tosses Tippy Toe up real high, and he comes back down, and is and you see from his perspective that Galactus has appeared as an enormous squirrel wearing a purple helmet and boots. And Tippy Toe comes back down and tells Squirrel Girl, oh yeah, no, big guy, purple helmet, boots, yeah.
Well, speaking of big guys, it's noticed that the brain-to-brawn ratio in the team is off balance, and that's a thought shared between Ben and Sue.
As they exit out of the microverse, they are not aware that they are being watched by Psycho Man. Copies their expansion frequency, which is the key that will allow him to reach his wildest dreams.
The guy who lights up the signs with the names of the teams on the football marquee?
Close enough.
And who in the name of Jack Kirby is Psycho Man?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Jeff, he said, cracking his knuckles.
So glad that I've got an expert here.
I'm going to go to the best source I have on any of this, which is the internet. Quote, Psycho Man is a mad scientist, the leader of a technocracy that governed a system of worlds within a microverse. Facing overpopulation, he determined that it would be easier to cross other dimensions than to travel to other systems.
I mean, I could have done that.
But have you destroyed your health and eyes writing a book about comic books?
Well, no.
Ha.
Meanwhile, in the Baxter Building,
home of the bedtime busting baby kids. Okay, alliteration. Alliteration's important.
Alex and the Dragon Man are demonstrating that they have absolutely no authority as the children of the Future Foundation are running amok.
Except for Valeria, who is being very, very Valeria, and despite the fact that she's 3 and is being drawn like a 7-year-old, because nobody in all of comics can draw 3-year-olds, she's checking in on her parents, and she triangulates the dimensional anomalies, and she's plotted the 3rd location of where they're going to be heading, smack in the middle of Cuba.
Is the Future Foundation going to fight Castro?
I mean, probably not. Comics are not political, remember?
No. I go into this at some length in all of the Marvels, but comics have always been political. And in fact,
Let me cut you off there to avoid spoilers, Douglas. I'm waiting for the movie.
I was just going to say Captain America had a tete-a-tete with Fidel Castro about 15 years ago. That's all.
Spoilers!
Anyway, Val is keyed in on the location as the first time her family went through time.
While that is accurate and fascinating and connects to my own podcast, The Voice of Latveria, focused on the Marvel Universe's greatest hero, Victor Von Doom, and his time platform. But I'm more interested in when this new Future Foundation is and what exactly they are looking at.
The when seems to be the year 3,141,592,653, maybe on a Tuesday. The where seems to be Earth's orbit, and the what is Baxter Retsab.
Jeff, can you describe that structure in space?
There are 12 Baxter buildings that are in a hollow cube shape that breaks my brain.
Comics, the medium that delivers on the promise of surrealism.
The team is greeted to the building that extends backwards and forwards through reality by the Future Foundation.
And we meet the team of Megastorm, Supremo, Xander, Yancey, and Captain Wakanda.
I love Captain Wakanda's design. Once again, Javier Pulido, the best designer in comics right now. I love his stuff. Anyway, the Future guys are stumped because the tech that they're using is so old, quotes. It's so ancient its secrets have been lost to time.
How old is it?
It's so old, it basically looks like Kirby tech.
Cricket, cricket, cricket.
So they can't fix the tech because it's out of date, but it's totally in Reed's wheelhouse.
Spidey glances at the tech and mentions, out loud, that he's getting tons of good ideas for his job back at home.
Now, at this point, I would like to invoke Unbeatable Squirrel Girl again, because there's a story that involves time travel with, in fact, Dr. Doom's time platform, once again. But this story is centered on a cafe called Café Papillon, named after the butterfly effect, which has clearly occurred to Reed that there's going to be some butterfly effect stuff going on if Peter decides to invent some of this a few millennia too early. So he makes Peter pinky swear promise on the forgotten memory of the wife that he no longer has retroactively. He makes Peter swear he's not going to use any future tech for inspiration in the present, because Reed is the only one who can do that. You know, there's a fan theory that Reed does not naturally have superpowers, that he found a crashed Skrull ship at some point, and every bit of tech that he has ever used comes from that. Let's not get into that, though. Anyway, Spider-Man is promising he's not going to use any future tech for present tech.
Peter's so going to break that promise and become exactly like Reed.
Peter Parker, you're a liar.
But while Peter grumbles about not being allowed to use a future sports almanac in the past, we go back to one last scene in that past. Carly shows up at Pete's job to have them ship him some cookies she baked by way of apology for having walked out on him the night before.
Okay, now wait a minute. Being a government employee, I am really confused by these extra perks. Will employers really send their employees cookies? Man, I've got the wrong profession.
In this particular case, they will not, because as the secretary, Flo, because secretaries in the Marvel Universe have to be called Flo after Flo Steinberg. So Flo points out, I'm sorry, dear, but we haven't sent Peter anywhere. Are you sure you heard him right? Dun, dun, dun.
Insert dramatic romantic tension music and post the "To Be Continued" banner.
And now we go to the themes of the issue and talk about the cover. We've got a couple of different covers here that were done.
I mean, there's the original Paul Renault cover, which there seems to be a lot of stuff. It doesn't seem to... Oh, no, actually, that's the variant.
That's the variant
we're looking at. Yeah, okay. No wonder it doesn't have anything to do with the issue.
Right.
The original cover is actually a kind of striking painted piece with Peter in a dramatic pose against some sort of abstract spiraling backdrop. That it's
It almost makes me think of the gun barrel scene from a 007 movie.
Yeah, it does, except it seems like it was done much, much faster with Photoshop. Like whoever did the cover, like spent so much time getting all the modeling right on Peter's costume, and then ran out of time, was like, okay, we're done.
It's got that swirly, and I can see that as tying in the sense of the clock spiral of going backward and forward and through time. I can also see it as the size shifting of going back and forward through sizing. And the spiral that you do when you get into mimery.
And I should say, too, that this is the Marko Djuradvek. He did the cover of this.
So we've got that second mysterious Paul Renault cover that doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything. And then we have
Thor Goes Hollywood variant cover, it says on the inside of the book.
Thor Goes Hollywood, okay. Which explains why we have Sif going... Is that a machine gun she's holding?
Yep.
Yeah, and there looks like there's a Firkin cat down below her, and it looks like she's standing on... Well, I'm going to go ahead and say Brood since we're in the Marvel Comics, but an alien xenomorph, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like Brood, but it could be anything. Generic space monster.
Space monster. And then we get like the beautiful, beautiful Javier Pulido cover, which was part of a set of 5 covers that all say, when you put them together, The Amazing Spider-Man by Dan Slott. By Dan Slott. Okay, first of all, Dan Slott did not even write every issue in there. The last one is a Fred Van Lent jam. And also, like, why not say The Amazing Spider-Man by Javier Pulido? Or Marcos Martin?
Or just The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not just take out the name on there? But I guess they're trying to put up the fact that Dan Slott's starting his run on Spider-Man now, I guess.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, he started his run on Spider-Man 100 issues earlier. He started his run as the one main writer of Spider-Man with number 648, so he's still not starting it right here, like 10 issues earlier.
So it's just, there's no reason for it.
There's no reason for it. I mean, Dan Slott is bringing a lot of good stuff to this comic, but the artists are bringing so much good stuff also.
And if nothing else, having this in here, this story and this kind of introduction, it's Jonathan Hickman's idea of getting Spider-Man on Fantastic Four team, so...
At the same time, Dan Slott has always been like the giant Fantastic Four mega fan. And there's a bunch of stories in this run where you can see him going like, okay, I may or may not ever get to write the main Fantastic Four title. Let's just do as Fantastic Four-y a Spider-Man story as we possibly can. And he's real good at that.
Yeah. Of the covers, which one do you like the most? I actually don't mind this
the
main
cover looks great.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all. I like this.
I like it.
I like the Art Deco or the strange background that's there, but I think Spider-Man looks fantastic.
I would agree. And as much as I like that Javier Pulido cover, it is just some clip art from the issue, basically.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's get to see the inside of the issue. Now, you talked a lot about how much you like the Javier Pulido art. And for the most part, I like it too. It's such a switch from a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing that it kind of sets me out a little bit. It feels a little cartoonish rather than what I've been seeing on the Jonathan Hickman run. And I just totally blanked on who's doing the artwork on that one now. But there's such a difference between the two styles that it kind of threw me out a little bit.
Yeah,
I love that.
Because I see it kind of as going as more of a comic book strip, like in the newspapers kind of art style.
I love the difference in art styles, even from issue to issue in Spider-Man. I mean, they traded off artists issue to issue a lot, and very often they were artists with very different styles. I'm all for pushing that Overton window of what kinds of visual styles are acceptable in mainstream superhero comics. And Javier Pulido is part of a little school of artists, including Marcos Martin, who was kind of the most interesting Spider-Man artist of this period, and Javier Rodriguez and a couple other people. I think they've shared studios. They all kind of know each other. And they have this very interesting way of kind of flattening everything out. Like, they're not trying to render stuff. They're trying to represent stuff kind of impressionistically, and I love that.
No, and I like it too. It's fine. It's just, for me, like I said, it's different.
Yeah.
Going from what Steve Epting is doing over on the FF issues right now, going to this, it's kind of one of those tonal shifts, which is fine. And then going into the next issue, we are going to have a different artist too. So it's like, we're in the middle of the same story. We're in the middle of the same story, and we got a different artist that comes in. I do like the style. And especially calling out those nice big splash pages that they've got in here. Those are fantastic. It reminds me of a bit of a Sunday morning cartoon a little bit, and it's very cartoony in its style, which is fine. It works for the story that they're telling.
Yeah, I like seeing the variety of art styles in books and issues. That's what I like about reading the variety pack of comics, whether, whatever company is producing them. There was a horror ones that I was reading by I'm trying to blank on what they are and who did it. But it was all like painted. It was just very paint smear art. But you could tell exactly what was going on, but it was also just like, if you glanced at it, you'd be like, I have no idea what this is a picture of, but I get the gist that that's a spooky monster. So I love seeing, just how do you take it? Keep everything from the homogenous kind of 90s thin waist, giant torso, kind of no feet, era of stuff.
Yeah. They do look a little bit more realistic. You are correct there. You were talking when we're going through the story that you really liked some of the designs they've got for the Future Foundation, especially Captain Wakanda, which is a bit of a twist on the current FF uniforms that they've got, a little bit high tech, and the Black Panther suit.
It is a beautiful throwaway piece of design for a character who is going to appear in 2 panels ever.
Yeah.
And there's care put into it. It is a cool looking thing. You can see how it kind of works. You can see the things that it's alluding to. And it's all that work for 2 panels. Right next to him is Xandar, who is our future Nova, who has a version of the Nova Corps uniform that has been modified to look like the new Future Foundation logo. And he's appearing in 1 panel ever. So much thought and so much care going into this.
Jeff, you had some things you wanted to talk about and bring up, right?
Yeah, actually I did. I kind of wanted to talk about the hypocrisy of the members of the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
I kind of alluded to it. I put it in the script earlier, and it's going to probably come back up in the final thoughts area. But just the aspect of, hey, we're grieving. We've retired black and blue for our costumes. How dare you wear that? Yes, because the Fantastic Four can retire colors because they're grieving. They had a loss. Oh, that's interesting. Peter Parker has suffered at the hands of the black and white costume for a very long period of time and has suffered not only old trauma, it's still fresh trauma. But when it's compared between the two, people call him a big baby and then tell him to get over it.
Well, Jeff, I'd like to point out one thing in the Fantastic Four's defense is, what trauma are you talking about? Are you talking about the trauma that Venom caused him when he got in between Peter and his marriage? Oh, wait, Peter wasn't married.
I think that, darn it, now I need to know what I'm assuming Venom still caused a lot of issues. Still, Venom suit, alien symbiote, wife or not, he had a lot of Venom issues, which has spawned into Carnage and all the other Rainbow Bright Care Bear versions of the Venom symbiote.
I don't also understand where Bentley's coming from, because Spider-Man's also had his own issues with clones. Mm-hmm. I mean, he should be just hating Bentley.
The secret of Bentley is that Bentley really, really wants to be a supervillain, or rather wants to be perceived as somebody who really wants to be a supervillain, which he kind of really doesn't.
Well, his dad's not really good at being a supervillain. I mean, he tries best. He's been around for a while. Bentley's got some aspirations. It's just that he's surrounded by people that are smarter than him, which has got to be annoying.
And he's trying hard to be a jerk, and he only kind of has it in him.
He's putting his entire foot down on that jerk pedal, though. He's giving it his all. All 80 pounds of him is giving it the best he possibly can.
He might not be good at it, but he loves what he does.
Yeah.
He's a hobbyist, not a professional.
Bentley is just subtly just some of the fun that we have in the book. Just kind of seeing, what mischief is Bentley getting into?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the jack of the party, kind of thing. He gets to say what he wants. He gets to do kind of whatever he wants, and he just hand waves away whatever repercussions there are. So he is fun.
Speaking of which, we do need to justify our reasons. So we do have Alex Power saying a couple of different lines in here. He says, yes, Miss Richards, and he is put in charge of being the babysitter of the group with Dragon Man.
Yeah, he tells Artie that they're making him look bad. Please go to bed.
Yeah, something he fails out terribly in this. Mm-hmm. But he actually is using his powers and not destroying sentient life forms, which is good. That's a step up from a couple issues ago. Kind of floating around with Dragon Man, trying to get the kids to stop messing around in the Future Foundation's version of Danger Room.
I think it's just not even a danger room so much as just a big room, and they're riding around on a bunch of Herbie scooters because it's fun.
Hey, if you've got a chance to ride around a Herbie scooter, you would take it in a heartbeat.
Probably.
There's a lot of nods going on from every male on this.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping into the middle of Spider-Man, I was not reading Amazing Spider-Man at this point in time, so the entire relationship with Carly, that is brand new. I was aware of the entire One Day More, Spider-Man's not with MJ anymore. I got that, but him with Carly is very interesting, and I think you did a nice job of talking about that earlier on during the synopsis. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of say about the relationship or how it's going?
So the thing about Amazing Spider-Man that Carly plays into is that Amazing Spider-Man is a romantic comedy. Very, very often, like from when John Romita comes in 1966 onward, it is a rom-com. It is Peter Parker and his love life difficulties, because that's funny, and that is another kind of born loser kind of thing, where he has the best of intentions and always, always, always messes up. If Peter is married, that can't happen.
I was going to say, isn't that also a bit of a throwback to the early comic books that Stan Lee and Ditko and all those guys were in, that were the old love comics?
So Ditko actually only ever drew like 2 or 3 romance comics ever. So Ditko had a lot of incredible strengths as a cartoonist, but drawing attractive people was not one of them. So his way of like drawing romance comics or showing sparks flying between two people would just be to like cover the entire panel with hearts. Didn't work so hot. But, Lee had a history in romance comics, and John Romita especially had been drawing romance comics for 10 solid years at DC before he came over to draw Spider-Man at Marvel. So there was that, and one of the innovations of the Marvel Universe was that it took all these genre comics that existed before this, the monster comics and the crime comics and the romance comics and the humor comics, and kind of mushed them all together into one thing. And it gave you all of those things at once. And that's what 60s Spider-Man did. It's what 60s Fantastic Four did. Like, if you look at those 60s Marvels, they're all the genres at once, and that's one of the cool things about them. And especially in Spider-Man, they could really play with romantic comedy, because Spider-Man is a Bildungsroman. It is a story about how a boy becomes a man. How is this kid going to grow up? And part of that is like, okay, he's going to get his love life in order. And so as long as it's a rom-com, you can do that. And once Peter Parker is married, you can't do that anymore.
So about 20 years, then we're like, okay, we've mined all of the marriage jokes we possibly can do.
They tried to break them up. They tried to kill Mary Jane. So many strategies of like, how can we get out of this? The whole Clone Saga was also an attempt to get out of that and go back to like, here's a Peter Parker who has to build his life from scratch. Because the Clone Saga was going to end originally with discovering that Ben Reilly, the other Spider-Man, was actually the real Peter Parker, and the real Peter Parker was going to now married to Mary Jane. Mary Jane was going to have a kid, and they were going to move off to Portland, Oregon, and live happily ever after, which they did for about a month and a half before there was enough outcry that Marvel editorial reversed course and was like, oh, no, actually, no, he is the original Spider-Man, and yeah, no, Ben's not the real yeah, okay, sorry, we had it backwards. Okay, as you were.
I guess my question to you then is, what is your feeling on One More Day storyline?
Pretty much everyone who is involved with One More Day is not very proud of it. I believe J. Michael Straczynski at one point considered having his name taken off of it. Nobody's happy with it, but it's the thing that you have to hold your nose and get through to get to what Spider-Man could be.
I love the JMS run on Spider-Man so much. He ran it for so long and did so many great stories. I loved his stuff. But again, it did bring him up to the point where he is married and he's in a good relationship and has a good job, and his life is going pretty fine except for all the extraneous Spider-Man-y stuff. It's just the reboot without rebooting, but it's a reboot where it's just like, okay, well, we took it to a really great point. The stories were really good. Time to scrap it and start up where he's an absolute loser again.
Which is where a lot of people want to see him.
It's where the good stories come from. There's a lot of story options in there, which is why it's the 60-odd years of Peter trying to get into a relationship. Oh, he's with Betty Brant now. Oh, okay, he's with, so-and-so or whoever, Carly, or, just all the different people. And then you scrap it and you restart.
The big Spider-Man chapter in all the Marvels is really about how Spider-Man is a cyclical kind of story. It's a bitsy spider. Like, Peter Parker climbs up to a certain point and then is knocked back down again. and has to start climbing all over again. So it's a coming of age story that's been happening for 60 years. You got to come of age at some point, or something has to happen to make you start over, and that keeps happening. What's interesting about this period, like Brand New Day and Big Time, like the Dan Slott, the first two acts of the Dan Slott period, are that he knows that it's a cycle. He knows that we've seen it before. The other writers who are in the Brain Trust during the Brand New Day period from 2008 to 2011 or so, we know that this is happening over and over. Let's do something to make it different. And so what happens at the end of this cycle is in fact very different. And then you get the whole Superior Spider-Man story, which is amazing.
It's really good.
And is the Peter Parker story inside out and upside down and backwards.
Yep.
And the fact, too, that he reaches all the successes that he wants. He gets Parker Industries. He's develops the web device. It's all the things. He's got the spider car, and it's awesome. There's so many things. He learns how to drive. He's learning martial arts. He talks to, I can't remember the martial artist's name, but Shang-Chi, who develops a spider martial arts based only for Spider-Man and his dexterity. Yeah, so many good things.
And the higher he climbs, the further he has to fall.
Yep.
And when he falls, it is once again him just being too responsible.
Yep.
Doing what he has to do and destroying himself and destroying a whole lot of other people's lives in the process.
It's like Peter Parker really can be summarized by Harry Dresden's tombstone, which is he died doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we are off on a whole new tangent now. That's good.
I'm enjoying it. Let's just keep talking.
I am too. I love this too. Anytime we get fans talking about comic books, it's a good time. It's a good time. This is you walk into a comic book store and you walk in the middle of a conversation about the Chris Claremont run of X-Men versus the Wolfman run of Titans, and go. All right, let's get into the final thoughts. Let's get into some of the Gallery of Greatness. I think we got a lot more to talk about, but I think it's going to be in the notes that we have. So let's go ahead and round the horn and talk a little bit about some of our favorite joke art in the book. What piece of art in the book needs to be printed out and placed on, like I said, the Danger Room style walls inside the Baxter building where all the kids are playing? Guest first, Douglas, do you have a good joke one for us?
Honestly, the Mobius Baxter building page is hysterical. Like, it's beautifully rendered, and it's funny.
I actually have that one as my top good art, and my
Same.
comment on that one was, my brain pan hurts. Because I just kept on staring at that, and it's like, I know what's going on here. I've seen this before, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
That was also my top best one on page 19 of Marvel Unlimited, and I called it palindromical architecture, which is what they called it. Amazing, amazing, amazing. But also I could see, Douglas, why you would go, that is funny. Because it was.
Yeah, it's hard to say, what's funny, what's not, but yes, it's amazing, amazing art any way we cut it. Jeff, do you have something funny that you would like to share with us?
I do. My joke backup one is on page 4, and I call it, We're Bad at High Fives. This is a bottom right-hand panel, just a small little thing. It's Peter and Carly waving goodbye to each other as they walk out of their romantic evening to go to their various crime-fighting activities. And they're just waving, but it really looks like they're trying to give each other high fives, but they're just really, really bad at it.
They're kind of bad at the entire relationship thing at this point in time.
Much. I do like a thing where they're talking, and it's just like, hey, we don't need to take this fast. And I think Carly is like, nobody's going to accuse us of taking this relationship fast. Bad at lots of things.
They are just going back to what we were saying. Why do we like Peter Parker? Because Peter Parker reminds us of us. Nobody is a Don Juan suave guy. I mean, there are some that are out there, but most of us are not. Most of us are exactly like this. Hi, you're cute. I'd like to be with you.
Speak for yourself, Ferdinandable.
Just saying. My joke one is on page 7 on the comics, and this is where we actually see the new Fantasticar, and it's going across the city, and everybody's in it. My comment is, that's just a hot dog in a bun.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a Hostess Twinkie with it's not good looking.
No,
and it doesn't look comfortable. Also, it's just one big line. I mean, it's just like trying to... If you think being in a car and having a conversation with somebody in the back seat's hard, this is just a straight line of 4 people. And it's like, well, hey, Sue, Up, Sue. Sue, I'm in the back. Hey, okay, never
No,
mind.
you're just throwing things at the thing's head. That's what you're doing.
basically.
It's not my favorite Fantastic Car design. That's all I'm saying on that one.
No, it's a hot dog. You're right. Yeah, it is a terrible looking ride, but it's made by a super smart guy, so it must be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give that. I'll give it that. Douglas, what else you got, sir?
For good art, I'm going to go back to that panel of the Future Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a whole lot of design for 2 panels that we get to see those characters in, and like you look at them and you kind of know what their story is. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. No, I dig it. I dig it. I was impressed by those designs. I also like the fact, too, that you can go like, I see what you're inspired by. We read a What If recently where it was like, oh, it's the Avengers 1 billion years in the future. And man, they are the same as everything because they're clones or copies or Thors who lived that long.
Yeah, it was literally taking current designs and making them look futuristic. Whereas this, you're creating, you know where the inspiration was from, but these are wholly new characters that are much different than their originals, even though you can see where it's at. It's very interesting that there was a lot more work that went into this than what we saw in that What If issue. Well, that was a very good choice, by the way.
That was a great choice, yep.
Jeff, what else you got?
I can give you my top joke one, and that is on page 14, and I call it Sniff My Finger.
Okay.
This is Carly at the murder crime scene where the Wraith had come in and spooked up a murderer who to get his confession and everything. And Carly's looking at the crime scene and going, I've seen this purple powder before. And she's just got a bit of it on her glove and is looking at it. But it really looks like it's like sniff my finger. It's got some, what is it? What does that smell like? So it made me laugh.
My top joke one is where we have the kids in the danger room and they're just flying around. And my call that one, kids just want to have fun.
Kids do just want to have fun. That's a great one.
Kids just want to have fun.
It's just a great panel.
It's a good fun one. They're just having a good time. They're going around there and they are just being kids. Being kids.
Did you have any other art in there, Douglas, or did you have 2?
No, I think that's what I got.
Okay. Then I will kick out my backup best art, which is on page 16, and I call it Cosmic Butterflies. And this is after they had saved the life of the superego, the living atom, from splitting, because when you split an atom, it's bad. But it's just been in black and white with this rainbow pattern of like a chain of butterflies flying around his arm. And I'm like, that's gorgeous. And I love rainbow butterflies. That's just neat. It's got a Jeff thing in there, which is interesting lighting on a character. So
yeah. Jeff and monochrome lighting. That's his thing. I'm going to go finish off the art by going one page forward and the double page spread of Superego. That's my backup good art.
Yep.
Comics are weird, man. Comics are weird. But this is just beautiful. Like I said, based on Ego the Living Planet. The superego, the living atom, it's a fun pun. It's a goofy joke. It's going off of Ego, the Living Planet. I love everything about it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious.
I was confused when I saw this, actually, because I was just like, yeah, it's Ego. But aren't they in the microverse? And then I was like, wait a minute. It had to go back, look. It's like, oh, superego, the living atom. I'm like, okay, it's fun what your brain will just pan over because you think you already know what it is.
Let's talk about some rubber and glue moments. We like to talk about what's the best or most childish insult in these books. Once again, Douglas, do you have a good or a backup insult that you'd like to throw at Jeff?
The best insult in the whole thing has to be Sue's revenge on the mime.
Yep.
That doesn't speak a word, as you do with mimes, and absolutely gets the point across.
My backup one was actually right before that, and that's where the mime, once again, not using words, but using action, is calling the thing a gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Sue turning it all around and just saying, okay, let's go ahead and put you in the box. Jeff, do you have a good insult for us?
Yep, I got a good backup one. And this is on page 9. And it is after Sue's telling Spidey to just get over it. The mole, it's all, Bentley, I am confused. According to Franklin, this Spider-Man is an adult, yet he behaves like an infant. Correct. He is a big baby.
That was my top one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bentley in the Moloids calling Peter a baby. Love it. Love it. Love it. Douglas, did you have any other insults that you wanted to share with us?
That's what I got.
All right.
Too tenderhearted.
My top insult one is the very next panel on page 9. Spider-Man doesn't like a suit, and I get it, which is why he accidentally left it at the Baxter building and is grumping about it and doesn't want to wear it. But they've harassed him about wearing the suit so much that he's just like, all right, I love it. Best suit ever. Can we go now?
Yeah. His low-key, just bitter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Parent of the Year, the Reed Richards Award for Good Parenting. And it's good parenting, or it's the irony of good parenting, whichever you prefer. Douglas, would you like to start us off?
I'm going to say Max Modell of Horizon Labs, who is making sure that, like, everybody is getting properly credited for what they're doing.
Very
That's a great
nice.
choice. That's a really good choice.
That's a very good choice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's an excellent one. I always like Max, too. He's a great character.
The father of the company, the father making sure that the kids are playing well together in sharing the work that they're all doing. I like it very much. Mine was going to be Sue, and I'm going to go both sides of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she was a good parent for making sure that the kids had 2 babysitters. But then I'm also going to give her a negative in saying that Sue, for not realizing that these kids would just walk all over those 2.
Yeah, she made bad choices.
I mean, it's the best choice in a circumstance, but, you know.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
it made the most sense. It made the most sense. Otherwise, you'd be like Sue going, and Baxter building, you're in charge. Make sure that the lights are off and that the kids go to bed building.
At that point in time, Bentley is just going to reprogram everything. So.
Yeah, or make a bomb. So
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't finish my sentence. Bentley is just going to reprogram everything to become a bomb.
Awesome. That makes more sense to me. Perfect.
What is your Reed Richards Award, Jeff?
I am going to give it to Dragon Man, a.k.a. Baby. And that is because they're having a hard time. But even when you're a parent, you're having a hard time. You know, here, let me quote Dragon Man directly. When the kids are just riding around on the scooters and playing and having fun and not listening to him, and he says, "Children, this is most unacceptable. To bed post haste. Do not provoke me into using my flame breath. I am most serious." You don't jump to flame breath, man. You don't threaten to burn an entire building of sentient beings to the ground just because they won't go to bed. You gotta escalate. Maybe he had escalated, but man, that's some bad parenting right there.
Fair.
Do that with my daughter tonight. Honey, it's time to go to bed. No, I want to play. Well, I'm gonna set fire to you.
You do own a flamethrower, so yes.
Yeah, I do. It's fun.
All right, let's talk about popular and shunned. We want to identify the characters who are the best and the worst in this issue. Who would like to start off? I'm going to throw it out there. We always start off with worst. Who would like to go first?
Oh, yeah. I mean, worst. No contest here. Peter Parker.
I'm agreeing with you. I am agreeing with
choice.
you. I'd be very interested to know your reasonings behind that.
He can't stop lying. You're a liar, Peter Parker. He lies to everyone in his life. Constantly.
Oh, it was frustrating how dumb he was with his lies, too, when it was just like saying, oh, I can go to the lab and do some work. That's a great lie. That's awesome. But when he calls her and leaves a voicemail from France saying that he, in the middle of the night, saying that he's been sent on a business trip from work. No. Just leave if you want to leave a voicemail, just go, hey, babe, I'm thinking of you. I'm really kind of tired, but I'll talk to you later. And he could have just ghosted her for the next day and said that he was at the lab, or he left and he got tired and fell asleep and it was the middle of the day and he woke up in the evening. He could have done any number of things. He built himself a coffin.
I was going to say that he just messes up his new relationship, his new job, and his new team. I don't know how he could make any of those situations any worse. I don't know what else he could have done. Let me tell you.
Could have set fire to Dragon Man.
Yeah, good points.
And we got it.
Went a different route, but Spider-Man is an amazing choice. I actually went for Sue as my my worst, my shunned. And that is because she's experiencing trauma that she's all worked up about. Understandable, get it. But she was very dismissive of Peter's trauma. Sue's get over it really kind of stuck in my craw. And also, putting a mime in a shrinking box, quite great. But that box got pretty small. And that is a massive abuse of power that she was doing. So
it's a mime, so who cares?
They're still, hey, they're like clowns. They're people too, buddy. So
don't say that to a clown. By the way, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not kidding. 2-year mime champion in high school, so I don't know what I'm talking about here. Yeah. Let's talk about the best. Who is the best in the series? And I'm going to go for a little bit of left field one here. Archon.
Interesting.
Right.
Hey, this is not his world, but it's his problem, and he's here to fix it with lightning bolts.
Very nice.
I am all for Archon just showing up, and I'm here to help. I'm here to do this. We're here to solve this problem. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. So this is why the Simon Williams movies with him are so popular?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, definitely they are. And it's Simon Williams. Come on.
Yeah. Matinee Idol, yeah.
I just had to piece this together. I'm like, what are they talking about? I'll
Talk
just
about
sit
Wonder
quietly. Wait a minute, Wonder Man. Did he do Archon movies in the Marvel world? Okay.
I forgot
News to
about that.
And fun. Neat.
Yep, he's done a whole series of them. So for my, the best actor, so to speak, it's got to be Carly Cooper, who is...
Same!
Like, she is surrounded by liars, cheats, and mountebanks the entire time, and she is acting in good faith no matter what. I mean, she's got Captain Watanabe standing right next to her saying, like, this looks like it was done by the Wraith. Captain Watanabe is the Wraith.
Yep.
Is the Wraith.
Mm-hmm.
She's just playing it cool and sniffing her finger, and it all works.
She even made cookies as way of apology. I think that was a little two-sided apology cookies, where she was like, I'll bake cookies to say sorry I walked out on our sleepover night. But why don't you send these to where you shipped them to?
I will say, too, that unlike Peter, she shows up on time to her job. She gets the call. She's out the door. She's there.
She also knows the baked goods are the key to Peter Parker's heart, from Aunt May's wheat cakes on down through Anna Maria Marconi's cooking. Like, that's how you get to Peter.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, let us move on to the fun part of the show, where we are going to grade this. We are going to evaluate this issue against all of the other issues that we have so far ranked in our small guest appearances of Power Pack and other comic books. And of course, we've got our lovely ongoing list, starting with the newish number 1 of Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 588, A Month of Mourning, the Funeral and Memorial of Johnny Storm. Down at spot number 8, we've got The Loners, Volume 1, number 2, Reflex Actions. That's where Johnny goes solo, and we're not talking about Johnny Storm there. Down at spot number 17, we've got Runaways, Volume 2, number 4, and this is where the kids try to figure out who Vic's daddy is. Ah, yes, the good old daddy issues. Down at spot number 24, we got Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 580, The Fantastic Four. That's where Frank, Leach, and Artie, they are going up against Arcade and the Impossible Man. And of course, we still have, at the bottom of the list, Loners number 3, What Lies Beneath. Julie is in the hospital and everyone finds out nothing about anything. Not a favorite story of ours, but that's where we're at. Douglas, unlike pretty much anybody else we've ever had on the show, you've read all these books before. So this, I mean, yes, this is our opinion of a ranking of these stories, but you at least have an understanding of them, and you may not agree with where we're at, but do you think that this book would fit within that ranking order that we've got so far?
I would say it's real high up, just on the strength of how amazing that art is. I'm actually going to stick it between your current number 3 and number 4.
Wow.
Let's see here. Last Stand, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Johnny Storm going face-to-face with the hordes of Annihilus, and The Runaways Volume 2, where we have the superhero fighting with Excelsior, and they are failing big time. That was our highest Runaways issue, and that was a good one.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling less than that. Let's just take FF number 1. As an example, it's in rank number 14. Do we like this better or worse than that one? The introduction of Spider-Man to the FF, where he got his suit.
You know what? I think that I like this one better, and I think that that's actually a very good comparison, because that Fantastic Four number 1, it felt like something was missing from it. I don't know why. It's like we were starting over, we're moving things in, and there was a pacing issue or something that was just not right with it. It's a lot of the same thing, except here we're going off on the first mission, and there's a lot going on, and it's packed full of stuff. So just on that, I think it's much, much higher than that Fantastic Four number 1.
So I agree that it is better than that. I kind of don't feel like it's in the 3 or 4 spot, but somewhere in between in there. Okay, how about Ben drinks a serum and becomes human?
Yeah, I was just actually looking at that one. The congratulations, Mr. Grimm, you're handsome again.
Mm-hmm.
It's a solid story, but it doesn't deliver visually nearly as much.
It's true.
It's touching if you're talking about, like, what is the most touching of these stories. This isn't that. But also, this is a blast. It is a whole bunch of terrific, fun ideas fleshed out for 2 pages apiece, and bam, you're on to the next one.
The thing I liked about the Mr. Grimm story is that it's Johnny and Ben having a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And it's a lot of those kinds of things. This has got that same kind of feel, except that there's more adventure going on. There's more excitement. They're hitting a lot of more things. So I'm actually thinking that it is above that one too. And that's just kind of leaving us with the Kings of Atlantis and the, you know what? The more I'm kind of going up here, I'm actually kind of going with you. This has got a lot in here, and I think that the only one that's got a lot that really compares it to is that Fantastic Four 587, where Johnny does take on the hordes of Annihilus.
Okay, well, we're getting weighted ratios now, so do you want to put it in the new number 4? Because I think Last Stand is much better than this one.
Oh, definitely. I think The Last Stand is much better. I just think that the more I'm thinking about this one, and it didn't grab me that much when I was going through it, but now kind of going back and talking about it, they hit a lot of things. There's a lot of information that you get out of this, where Peter's at now, what they're doing, the relationship he's got with his new girlfriend. They hit 3 different spots, and there's a lot that's involved with that. There's a lot that's going on there. So I think I'm good with the new number 4 for it.
All right. Douglas was right. Right off the bat, he called it, and that's where we got. All right.
Yeah. I feel vindicated.
No, I still am not the biggest fan of the art. I think I still like some of the art in the other Fantastic Four books. And even to some extent, I like the Runaways art better. But I will say that there is some drafting, and I think you called that out earlier too. The drafting that the artist does in this book really shows a lot more craft, and he's putting a lot more information in there. It may not be my style of art that I really like, but he's putting a lot of thought and construction into what he's drawing.
He did put a lot of thought into the art that he did, and it was very impressive and interesting. And that could bring us to our final thoughts on beer, and that's the beer that we drank, which was Beach Trip, a Pacific Pale Ale by Brewery 26. So, Rick, what did we think of our beverage of choice tonight?
You know what? I'm actually liking this. It's not an IPA, so I'm not struggling with it. It's tasty. Taste has remained the same. This is a longer recording than we have done in a while, and the taste is still the same as when we started. It's a refreshing beer. It's nice and light. I think that this is a good, solid beer. I think this is a good 4 for me.
I agree. It's very tasty. It is pleasant. It is easy. It is not challenging at all. This is an excellent summer beer, an excellent beach beer. Like Rick had said, the flavor profile had not changed. I've enjoyed it. I'm bouncing between 3.5 and 4. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt. I will also say a 4, just so that I can hang out with the cool kids at Rick's table.
And of course, Douglas, your beverage that you've been sipping on tonight, you still enjoying that a lot?
The rose cordial from Portland Syrups, from their premium beverage concentrate that I drank, it is light, it is fluffy, it is remarkably well constructed in its way. Its flavor profile is more complicated than simple sweetness, and it nonetheless has a sort of roseate glow like Monte Vicente's coloring.
Very nice way of tying it together. Very nice way.
Trying hard.
Oh, that's okay. We have a very funky little thing that we do here, but it works for us, at least for a while.
Not a problem, because I was going to say what also gives me a rosy red glow is when we get to kids' perspective. And that's where Rick talks to his 12-year-old daughter about the issue that we just covered. So, Rick and Carrie, please take it away.
Hello, Carrie.
Hello, Daddy.
Welcome to a new book. We're going to cover something else brand new. It's still in the line of what we have been talking about. It's just this story is kind of picking up a little bit with Amazing Spider-Man. You ready?
Yeah.
So tell me what you thought about this book. What was the first thing that really struck you about this book we read?
The art style was different.
Tell me what you thought about the art style.
It was pretty good. I liked it still. It was less of a realistic, looked a little bit more like cartoonish a bit, but still serious.
Serious? And it was enjoyable?
Yeah.
And it helped tell the story pretty well?
Yeah.
What'd you think about the story overall? Did you like it?
Uh-huh. By the way, who's Carly?
Carly is Peter Parker's new girlfriend.
How many girlfriends does a man have?
Well, like, if you've been around since the 1960s, you probably had a few.
Oh my god. So it's like Gwen Stacy died. What happened with, something happened with Mary Jane, and so now he's dating another person?
Oh, he's dated a few different people, but yeah, what happened to Mary Jane, as it was explained to us, is Mephisto did this spell where nothing has ever happened between Mary Jane and Peter Parker. They never met. They never married. They never had any kind of relationship. So that entire thing never happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So he met this lady Carly and started to date her. But he hasn't told her that he's Spider-Man, right?
No. I don't think he's told anybody that he's Spider-Man, have.
The Fantastic Four know who he is. But what do you think about his relationship with Carly? How do you think that's going so far?
So far, kind of bad.
Yeah.
Like, they're just willing to walk out in the middle of the night to do their work, I say with air quotes.
Well, it's both work. I mean, she's got work as a police officer, and he's working for Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, but he did kind of had to lie about that part.
Sure.
So, not starting off with the greatest relationship, and then in the end, she became really suspicious, because...
Yeah.
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 We went to that Marvel exhibit yesterday, and it said something like Flo was like some sort of helper of Stan Lee.
That's correct.
And she looked the exact same in this, and I looked at this after rereading this. I was like, wait a minute.
Good job, Carrie.
Did they do that for a reason?
Yes, they did it for exactly the reason you said. Flo Steinberg, who worked for Marvel Comics for years, was Stan Lee's secretary. And because she did so much for Marvel Comics, anytime they needed to have a secretary or administrative assistant in the comic books, they would draw her in there and give her that title. And they did that in this comic. And it's really awesome that you picked that out, because when we were talking earlier on the show with our guest for the episode, Douglas Wolk, he has written a book on all the Marvels where he's read all the Marvel comic books, and he brought up that same exact point about that same character. So bravo, Carrie. You said something that our expert said. So that's well done.
Oh, thank you.
What else did you like about this comic book?
I do like how the kids were reacting to Spider-Man complaining about the suit. They're like saying he was a big baby.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man's immediate change of heart after hearing that. He's like, it's great.
This is not Spider-Man's best day, where he gets mocked by kids, makes bad choices with his girlfriend, he makes bad choices with his new team. Yeah, this isn't Spider-Man's best day ever, is it?
No.
Where did they go? Which of the 3 places did you like the most?
Future Foundation, because we got introduced to a few more... Well, I got introduced to a lot more people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is the only time those people appear, just in this comic. But they seem pretty cool, though. They seem pretty well fleshed out for the brief introduction we got on them, right?
Yeah. Oh, another bad thing that happened to Spider-Man, he got shouted down by Reed. He's like, I can't use these
Yeah, he wanted to use some of the things he was learning about in the future in the past, and he's not allowed to do that, right?
Yeah. If you use future technology in the present, then it affects the future, and then future stuff goes wrong, and so many futures, and blah, blah, blah. And then your brain hurts.
Well, I don't want your brain to hurt. Is there anything else that you want to talk about this book?
I don't think so.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Good. That's about it. Thank you very much for your time, Carrie.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
I know, Carrie, those pastries looked really tasty. I'd travel to France for them as well.
Shout out time. We like to recognize those listeners that take the time to write in or leave us a review. And, Twitter is becoming an absolute disaster, and so we haven't been getting a lot of people that have been liking, and I understand that, but we do want to thank those people that gave us a like or a thank you for episode 123, where we covered Fantastic Four 587, The Last Stand, and that includes
Jeremy Daw,
Charles Gears,
Tim Price, the Podcrasher, and his podcast, The Outcasters,
Waffles, and his podcast, Waffles and Mates Talk About Things.
And we'd also like to thank those wonderful people that give us money to do this wonderful thing that we do. That's right, the people who support us on Patreon, and that includes the adorably astonishing and amazing Edward Burns,
cheerfully cheeky and charming Char Logan,
challenging, cheesy, and chuckling Charles Gears,
destructive and devastatingly delightful Damian Whittier,
dynamically dangerous and devious Doug Jones,
exciting, energetic, and entertaining Edward Verocci,
intelligent, interesting, and innovative Isaac Perry,
jesting, joking, and jovial Jeff Puller,
just jealous and jeweled Jeremy Daw,
Muscly, mighty, and meticulous Matthew Birdsey.
Mythical and magnificent monologuing Matthew Lazarowitz.
Rudely rhyming and running Rustin Fritcher.
Steely, salty, and steamy Sailor Bear Zodar.
Sad and sickeningly silly Shag Matthews.
Strange and stirringly steady Stephen Gray.
Tyrannically terrifying and tame Tim Price.
Technically terrific and triumphant Todd Enoch.
Way wordy and wobbly Waffles.
And weird and wonderfully wacky Wind.
Next issue, we are going to cover Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, number 659, Fantastic Voyage, Part 1.
And be sure to check out my other show that I do, monthly Monday Movie Muckabouts on the Longbox Crusade Podcast Network. And Douglas, can you please tell the wonderful people where they can find you or what else you're doing?
I can be found at douglaswolk.com, and I'm Douglas Wolk on basically every social network there is, and soon there will be a return of my podcast, Voice of Latveria.
And also, please be sure to check out his fantastic book, All the Marvels, where he talks about his walk through all of the Marvel comic books.
And we have some merchandise available on Redbubble. Go to redbubble.com and search for Unpacking the Power of Power Pack.
Jeff and Rick Present is a bi-weekly self-produced podcast recorded in front of a live studio audience in Portland, Oregon, with my wonderfully completed new Lego Infinity Gauntlet that is awesome. If you would like to interact with us through the magic of the internet, you can do so through Twitter at Jeff and Rick Present, our Facebook page, Jeff and Rick Present, our email address, jeffandrickpresent, all one word, @gmail.com, or at our website, jeffandrickpresents.wordpress.com. Also, our YouTube channel is at Jeff and Rick Present.
And if you would like to help support our show, we are on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com, Jeff and Rick Present, all one word. We are also a proud supporter of the Hero Initiative, and we'll be donating 10% of our Patreon donations to this great cause. We encourage everyone to give what they can to this worthwhile organization that helps the creators who provide us with such great content. Go to heroinitiative.org to find out more.
Please rate and review us wherever you can. Tell your friends about us or share your love for us on social media.
And as always, we want to thank the powerful people in our packs.
My wife Cindy and our daughter Carrie.
My fiancée Hillary and our daughter Aurora.
My wife Lisa and our kid Sterling.
We love you. Until next time.
Costumes off.
Our theme music is 80s Action by Kevin MacLeod. Also featured in this episode is Heroes of a Thousand Battles. All music is found at incompetech.com and is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Analyzing awesome and amazing. I can't. Nice.
Cricket.
Nice.
That could be
Nice,
pleasant.
nice.
Which we all know what it smells like. I'm sure that we've all been there. We all end up there at some point if you live in Portland.
Many, many times, and every time somebody comes down, we're going to the Rose Garden.
Take them over there.
It's Rose Garden.
Got to fill up that time somehow.
I don't want to talk to them.
Don't want them in your house.
Speaking of filling up time,
Yeah, we fill up time a lot. You're right. Let's move on.
Cricket.
Artist, Javier Pulido.
Javier.
Artist, Javier
Javier.
Artist, Javier Here we go.
Javier is better than no air at all.
Javier. Artist, Javier Follier. Javier. It's not light air, it's Javier. Artist, Javier Pavia. Okay, are we doing...
Just say Javier. Say Javier.
Javier.
Okay, now say Polito.
Javier Polito.
Perfect. Move on to the next one.
Artist, Javier Polito.
Cricket.
One of the most realistic things I had seen in a TV show was in Frankie and Grace, and one of the characters there had convinced his girlfriend, wife, whatever it was, to go to a comic book convention with him. And he's in the bathroom, and he's listening to nerds argue about who the most powerful character in the Marvel Universe is in the room next door. And he's listening to that, and you see him getting angrier and angrier until you see him, I think he's sitting on a toilet, and then he's yelling to an empty bathroom that the other people can hear. He's like, no, the most powerful person in the Marvel Universe is Franklin Richards. And, going on a diatribe about that. I'm like, wow, this is super realistic. This is very well written for that alone, because yes.
It me, as they say.
Yeah.